And good morning. We are live. This is going to be Forging the Falcons and a lot of NFL draft talk with my friend Nick Kendall. I'm Scott Kennedy, and y'all, I got to tell you right away, I'm fired up. I'm fired up. You throw me a Todd McShay mock draft first thing in the morning that has the Falcons taking a wide receiver at 8, and it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly in here. I've said before, if the Falcons take a wide receiver at 8 without addressing, and they don't have any money to do it, so I don't know how they would, without addressing the offensive and defensive lines, I will be unmerciful. Unmerciful. I'm still complaining about Dimitroff trading 5 picks from 12 years ago for Julio Jones, and Julio Jones was good.
Hall of Famer.
Real good.
Hall of Famer.
That was a 13-3 team that just gave up 48 points to the Packers and couldn't force them to punt, and you traded away 5 picks for a wide receiver. That was not the best move for a 13-3 team that was the number 1 seed in the draft. And if this team goes a wide receiver, we'll get into that. We'll go through all the reasons why that is moronic. And I'll even try and go through the points of why it might make a little bit of sense. I mean, obviously, this team has needs everywhere, right, Nick? How are you this morning, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling me your friend. That's really nice of you. That's obviously Todd McShay, not a friend in here. I did meet Todd when it's kind of a funny story. During the draft process, 2019, I was in the Midwest and I drove down to see Drew Lock, his Pro Bowl, and covered that. Talked to Daniel Jeremiah down there. Talked with Todd McShay for about 10, 15 minutes. I thought he was working, but he was fine. I don't know. I mean, I don't always respect his draft analysis, but there are definitely worse out there. So, but he does have you fired up.
I don't know, Nick. As far as the people at the big places, I honestly think, and I'm not. There's nothing to do with him personally at all.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm half jealous of him. He has better suits than I do, better hair, better job, makes more money. It's probably a lot of envy. But as far as the guys who get paid to prognosticate, predict, and do all those type of things, I think he's the worst by far. The worst.
I can think of a few others, but I won't. We can save that off there. You guys can DM.
But you know a lot more of these guys than I do. Again, because I'm looking at my own. I'm like, I don't necessarily care what so and so over at one of the PFs says. I don't know who any of them are, honestly. But the ESPN, the NFL Network guys, I do know who they are, and and we've talked to Mel Kiper a lot. And, Mel Kiper does the work. When you predict the future, you're going to be wrong a lot. And if I try and put those together, then you're going to have a lot of wrongs in a row. That's not it. But there's stuff that you can't be wrong about in this business as often as he is. And it's just like, do you know what you're doing? I mean, I know you give good TV. I know that. But do you know what you're doing, or does it matter? And that's the thing that bothers me. It's almost like it doesn't really even matter how bad you are at this, as long as you're given good television.
I mean, entertainment side of the NFL, right? As long as it's some good television, you can have it. I will say they have a podcast called First Draft, and for being ESPN with Field Yates and Todd McShay and Mel Kiper, production quality is terrible. They're talking over each other constantly, and the phone's ringing in the background. It's like, I know they're older, maybe technology is a little bit harder for them sometimes, but like, come on, you have so much resources. It drives me insane.
And I still think of Todd as the young guy. That's the crazy part. I mean, Mel Kiper's been doing this, since the 80s.
Yeah. Nope. He's have not met Mel yet, but we'll definitely brush elbows with him at some point. Also here, he's a great dude as well. And it's great when you hear that, but let's get into it. Obviously, Todd McShay mocking a wide receiver at 8, but I am curious, if you do have it in front of you, can we hear leading up to 8? Because I want to know what the options are.
And to be fair, honestly, I like the 8 in front of them. I'm like, okay, well, who did the Falcons pass over to take that spot? And let's say good morning to some folks first.
Totally.
Real quick. Luke comes in and says, good morning, Nick and Scott. Here's a fun fact this morning. Chandler Jones is a brother of UFC superstar and former light heavyweight champion John Jones. All right.
Man, did you know that?
Stuff. EJ says, good morning, Nick and Scott. Let's talk football. Absolutely. We'll get at least 45 minutes in here, maybe an hour, maybe more. I think I ended up sticking around. We missed last week, so we got some time to make up. Ethan from across the pond. Hope you're enjoying some Champions League, my friend. It's a good time to watch some soccer. Champions League is one of the best sporting tournaments in sports. It's pretty awesome. Jay Roper. So let me suggest Cole Kelly is a late round draft pick. Very interesting. Jay, Now, Cole Strange was the one at Senior Bowl that moved in at center and offensive guard that I really liked. I don't know Cole Kelly as well.
Cole Kelly is I think a quarterback. He went to Arkansas and transferred to Southeastern Louisiana. I saw Jay mention him a couple times last night. I will say it's pretty hard to find some Southeast Louisiana tape that's worth very much. But he's going to be one that's probably going to be late round flyer UDFA, and he'll probably have to pop at his pro day, wherever that is. It's like, oh my gosh, the arm pops, the arm passes that threshold eye test. You can hear it differently. It leaves the hand differently. And that's probably the type of bar that he's going to have to cross to.
And does he need to piggyback with somebody else? It's
probably.
Like, oh, he's coming over to LSU's pro day too. They invited him over.
Maybe there's some wide receivers at Louisiana Tech or SMU or something that they can get him out there for him. James coming in. James, good
morning,
to see you.
James. Good morning, James. Good morning, US Dave. Good morning, Mark S. And Clayton coming on Facebook. So what coffee this morning?
Do you think that's our Mark?
For me, I'm always black coffee. This is from Cafe Bread. I think this is it's one of the new ones. It's like Paus, Paos, and Cafe Brit. I'm going to send them a tape of this so they can start sponsoring me. 20% off Valentine's Day special right now over at cafebrit.com. So I'm actually still on my Halloween special where I got 31% off and, loaded up, brought it in a truck. They think I'm a distributor here. So I'm still on my Halloween stash.
And I want to say Mark S. could be Mark Schrader, who's been a big contributor over on the Facebook side of things for us on Broncos channel. So I just want to shout out, if it is Mark Schrader, I see you. We really appreciate you. Been a big supporter for us.
Yep. Keith Robbins coming in on Facebook. Welcome. Look at that little one. My goodness.
I don't have any of my own yet, but that's a cute picture.
That's a youngin. That's a youngin.
Fresh.
Dave says, I wonder how often Cup gets tested for PEDs. What was that one that there was a picture of Myles Garrett just looking like the freaking Hulk?
He's insane.
He's like, oh yeah, I got random tested after I posted this picture yesterday.
I mean, it's like one of the, anybody could become an NFL athlete. No, you can't. Like, that's no matter what. That's the genetic lottery there. And it takes hard work and determination to get there too, to get that. But my God, what a freak. What a freak.
I call those guys, because I've heard doctors talk about, doing surgery on some of these guys, and says the muscle density and the tissue density and everything's just different.
Yep.
And I say, it's a different caliber of human being. I mean, it just is. But let's go through this. And Joe, I see you in here. We're going to get to Jermaine Johnson too.
And it is Mark. It is Mark Schrader.
Questions, and we want to hit a lot of guys. People are starting to pour in. Hit that like button. It says only 2 on Facebook right now.
Only 2.
Come in and hit those. But let me go through here because a lot of it makes sense. It's fairly easy. And I'm like, all the guys. Okay, he didn't do anything too nuts here. All the guys that I really would have wanted are gone. To be fair. But Evan Neal to the Jags, it makes sense. Get a left tackle for your franchise quarterback. Aiden Hutchinson at 2 to the Lions. And this is Todd McShay's mock draft that he released on ESPN. Good write-ups in here. Houston Texans take Kyle Hamilton. How can we be mad at Todd McShay? We're lock, stock, and barrel with him on that one.
Yeah, and with the Patriots, being a team that's kind of built themselves, at least recent years, back forward, I wonder if that's something that they would do there, because that's a team that's really emphasized the versatile weapons in the back seven. You're not going to find a more versatile weapon in the back seven than Kyle Hamilton. So I don't hate it.
Yep. No, me neither. Well, obviously, I don't either. Forrest Ike-Mekwonu, offensive tackle to the Jets. Kayvon Thibodeau falls to number 5 to the Giants. When you get a possible number 1 at 5, I don't care what your needs are.
And what did we say yesterday, Scott? There's 5 players in this draft that seem to be a clear delineation from everybody else. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There they go. Yep. Boom. Okay.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think, and then Sauce Gardner goes at 6.
Okay. All right.
To the Panthers. I had them taking a corner too, and I kind of forgot that they needed them. But he says the Panthers are financially invested in Darnold for 2022. Even so, number 6 is too rich for any of the quarterbacks in this class. Well, we're kind of hoping not. And that was one of the points I made writing up, that we hope if you're sitting at 8 and 9 or in this class, you want Malik Willis to pop. You want him to pop. You want Kenny Pickett to have an awesome time. You want those draft picks to become more valuable. Maybe it pushes a guy down like Sauce. If you really don't like a guy, you want him to succeed really well. If you love a guy, you want him to fall on his face.
Yeah.
You're just like, man, slow down. We want you at 8. Quit being so good. Let me see here. Let me go back here. New York Giants take Charles Cross at 7. So, all of that makes a lot of sense. And then it goes, again, he doubles down because he had Jameis Williams at 8, and he takes Drake London, wide receiver, USC, Devin Lloyd, inside linebacker, Denver Broncos. And Lloyd plays a lot outside too. So I just say linebacker for Devin Lloyd. And then Derek Stingley Jr. at 10.
Who did he have 7 again?
7 was Charles Cross.
Okay, well, there it is. One of those guys that maybe not the cleanest fit, but you're betting on Tradeson upside with that pick. So he's one that
I'm looking at players more so than fits as far as what they need. Is this the right order? And if Stingley has foot problems, then maybe he falls. Otherwise, I would much rather have what we think Derek Stingley could be opposite AJ Terrell than a wide receiver that you can't get the ball to.
Yeah.
Because again, the Falcons offensive line, one of Jalen Mayfield and Caleb McGarry will kill you. One of those guys will kill your offense. Yep. 2 of them, and it's a miracle. The Falcons were Kyle Pitts living up to the hype, hitting a home run with Cordell Patterson, and a good quarterback from winning 7 games, 7 one-score games. They went 7-2. Yep. If Patterson's gone, if Matt regresses even just a little bit, those 7-2 could turn into 2-7 in a hurry, and that was all 7 of their wins.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 2-15, which maybe
the plan.
Then you're sitting there looking at a possible number 1 overall, and then you go get your quarterback.
Yeah.
But at that point, do you waste 3 years of a wide receiver before you can even get a competent thrower to him? That's my concern. It's like it doesn't do you any good to have a really good wide receiver because the rest of your team, the nuts and bolts, the framework, the foundation of your team is garbage.
Yep. Yeah, it's it was Carl yesterday who said that he just took down his Christmas tree because they had a late Christmas party with everything going on in the world. But drafting a wide receiver right now, in my opinion, for the Falcons with where they are financially, roster-wise, would be like putting the tinsel on the tree before it's even in the tree stand, before the ornaments are up, before the lights are on. Tinsel's last. That's the shine. That's the pop. That's the, what's going to make it, over the top. But I think that if one of these, let's say there was a Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase caliber wide receiver in this class, which I do not believe there is, then at 9, we're not going to get another chance at one of these guys. I know we need these other things, but this guy is different. I don't care. I know maybe fundamentally you can disagree with me there on that, Scott, but I think it is, you got to get the players. And if he's a special player, you have to be right. But if he's a special player, don't pass him. Yeah. But I don't think that's true for any of these wide receivers. And I think that wide receiver 1 through 6, 1 through 8 this season, good luck separating. I mean, that's this class this year. So, and Drake London too. I guess we can get into Drake a little bit. Have you watched much Drake London?
I haven't. Again, for me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He's a wasted piece on this team's. Yeah. When your offensive line is so bad. Well, Scott, look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, Scott, I will look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They were 10-7.
They also
they were questionable to make the playoffs, and they had already poured their money into their defense on free agency. The Falcons can't do that.
Nope.
They can't. Nope. And what happens if you cannot run the ball, cannot protect your quarterback when it matters? You lose when it matters. You lose to the 49ers when Julio Jones has 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. You lose to the Eagles the year after the Super Bowl. We won't even talk about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You lose to these teams. You blow leads. You can't finish games when your foundation is cracked.
Yep. Yeah, it's again, if there was somebody Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase's caliber in this class, okay, probably too good to pass. We'll figure out later. We have 2 second-round picks, I believe, off the top of my head. We can find some depth at those other positions later. Get this guy we think can be a star. Don't think that's Drake London. I think Drake London is really good, but the type of wide receiver he is, what is he? About 6'5", 220. I see a lot of old school, not linebacker, but the wide receiver, Brandon Marshall, to his game. But he's a weird player too, because at USC 2 years ago, he played more of like a big slot where he was a seam splitter, and he moved to the boundary this year, and he makes some great catches on the boundary, but they're almost always contested catches. Guys, all over him. And he's good at going up for the contested catches, but how is that a top 10 value? You know, I think separators, guys who can separate the explosive athletes, are way more valuable and translate better to the NFL level. So I don't think Drake Jackson is a CD Lamb level of prospect type of player. So he's good. He's also coming
Watson in the third.
There you go. Yeah, Christian Watson. I'm hoping Christian Watson goes to the 49ers personally.
Give me 6'4", 210 pounds, 10.5-inch hands. Give me Christian Watson in the third.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, again, the Falcons, I think I may be off by a yard or two, but the Falcons started camp tomorrow, the players that they would have show up at wide receiver have a career one catch for 13 yards. Oh, I know wide receivers in need. I know.
Yeah.
When I'm doing mock drafts and I get to the fourth, I take at least two. I take two. I get it. I know it's a huge need.
Yeah.
But if Matt Ryan's still getting his butt kicked all over the place and you can't run the ball and you only have 18 sacks when the next worst team is 29, you could double your sacks and not climb out of the bottom half of the NFL in sacks.
Yep.
When you can't stop the run, when you can't do the fundamentals of this game, you can't take a wide receiver at 8. Trade back. Go back.
Yep.
Go back.
Yep.
If you're not sold, it's like, we don't want Derek Stingley. We're afraid of his foot. We're afraid of this guy. Fine. Move down some. Pick up another third-round pick. Move down 3 or 4 spots. That's fine. Speaking of which, I promised I'd get back to Joe Cannon coming in here. Appreciate you, Joe. So what are you guys' thoughts on Jermaine Johnson? We did a mock draft, Nick and I, yesterday on Broncos for breakfast, and I took Jermaine Johnson for the Broncos at 9. He's 6'5", he's 260 pounds. He had 10 plus sacks for FSU last year. I'm assuming that the measurables that he does in his pro day and combine are going to be top 10-ish. And if they are, he's a top 10 player. So if he goes out and he runs 4.55 or better, he goes out and throws out a 4.1 shuttle, a 7 flat L cone, a 35-inch vertical, then I'd be fine with him at 8. I think he's a top 10 guy. The Falcons need to hit on an edge at 8 if one of them's there, and then they need to take another one in the second round. You can take 2 of your 3. I mean, you really could in your first. I think they've got 4 top 100 picks right in that neighborhood. Let me double check that. It might be 5, but 2 of those need to be edge guys. 2 of them at least. And if Jermaine Johnson is one of those guys, I'll be pretty happy. Boye Mafe, if he slides in the second and you use it a first or your second round pick on Boye Mafe out of Minnesota, I'm excited.
Yeah, Kingsley Enagbare, Trayvon Walker, George Karlaftis, the list goes on and on. Sam Williams, Cameron Thomas. This is such a good edge class this year. I'm really excited about it. I mean, there's no Myles Garrett caliber guy at the top. That will be Will Anderson next year, but a lot of talent. Yeah, Jermaine Johnson, 34 3/8 arm length. He's a massive unit. I don't think he is a top 10 any year kind of guy. He's not going to get a top 10 grade from me. I don't think he has that caliber of bend. I don't think he has that caliber of get off. I don't think he has the ankle flexion to be that kind of guy. Personally, when I've watched him, I've watched 4 games of him. But he's really talented, and I love his motor. He's one as well that, me, I really like the power rushers with the length because they are as valuable on first and second down as they are on third. And you have to earn those third downs where you can pin your ears back on first and second down. And I think he can do that with Jermaine Johnson. Something that with David Ojabo, first and second down, is even going to be able to see the field. I know he has freak traits. Like, he's the freakiest edge rusher in this class, athletic wise, but he's so far away in run defense that you might burn 2 years where he's not even starting. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of value on the third down, but limited. So I do really like
a lot of value on the third down would help this team a lot.
Yes,
it would a lot of value at third down would really help the Falcons. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they couldn't have been great on holding teams on third down conversions.
But it needs to be like 3rd and 4 or longer for him to be out there. And the other thing is, you can't hide him. This is the Myles Garrett, or not, excuse me, Micah Parsons discussion. Yeah, watching tape, I see some Micah Parsons. I don't see that with good call there, Dave, but I don't see that with Jermaine Johnson. But the thing with Micah Parsons is when I saw him coming out, I'm like, this guy is an edge rusher. He's so free. I mean, sometimes he overthinks and is a little slow, but if you tell him to go downhill and attack, he's incredible. He might be the best edge in this class just because of the traits that he has. But I don't know if he can hold up there on first and second down, given his length and his body type as much. What does he do? First and second down, he's off ball. Third down, pass rush specialist. Chef kiss. I mean, God, that is brilliant. I mean, that's exactly what you want. That's perfect for him. God, I absolutely love it. What a good fit.
And Dave, Nick's real clear for me. So we're talking about this about Nick in Seattle. He's real clear for me. So
only bad content. Only bad content coming from Seattle right now. Not bad internet.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully it's not for everybody. On my end, it's super clear.
Yeah.
So when you were just describing David Ajabo, Falcons fans, who did you hear? The guy I heard was Vic Beasley. You know, was a 2016 best case was a 2016 version of Vic Beasley, who had about 16 and a half sacks, 17 sacks. And by doing that, helped lead the team to the Super Bowl. But that was really all he could do. And he couldn't do that consistently because he was just a speed guy.
Yeah.
You know, just a speed guy. Can he do other things? And what are his measurables going to look like as far as height, weight?
He's going to be 6'4", 6'5", about 255.
Okay.
He's just so raw. He didn't even play 2 years ago. He had like 12 snaps, and this year he came on and was like, oh my God, boom, there he is. So it's just that it's more like he's like Jason Owe, but with production because he actually had somebody on the other side from him. But as far as the run defense right now is a big, huge projection. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there. So, oh God, Jay saying Nick is so clear we can see his stubble growing. Thank you very much.
It looks good on my end. And Kevin Mapp coming in saying good morning, guys. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome. So remember the Southern Miss thing, and I've said this before. As soon as I see Southern Miss, I think Tony Smith. Tony Smith, the answer to who did the Falcons draft with the number 1 pick they got from the Packers for Brett Favre? Tony Smith, running back. EJ comes in and says, Scott, if you're the GM, who are you drafting at 8? It depends on who's there. Who would I like to have? I'd like to have Kyle Hamilton. You know, Scott, you just talked about the lines of scrimmage and all of this type of stuff. Well, they need 2 starting safeties too. You know, there's 2 starting safeties there, and the different things you can do. You can build, as Nick was saying, building back to front. If I've got really good defensive backs, it indirectly or flat out directly helps my defensive line. It does. It lets Dean Pease do more things to help get pressure. So it helps the defensive line. A wide receiver that stretches the field, how much does he help it when you can't get any protection? All you're doing is you're throwing the ball up for grabs and hoping. Falcons already got that guy. His name's Kyle Pitts. You know, where you can throw that into there. So I just don't see it on a wide receiver so much.
I think that if Jameson Williams didn't get injured, that maybe there'd be a conversation there just because the speed. This is just my opinion. The speed threat is so valuable as far as dictating coverage. Like you're not playing cover 3 or cover 1 if Jameson Williams is there and you're able to scheme him off press because he will kill you. So you already have a more static look from the defense. I agree with you on the surface, though. Like, there's going to be a trench guy, a defensive player that's going to be more valuable. I think I would at least entertain the conversation if Williams was healthy. I don't see it with Drake London. That just doesn't make sense to me.
And see, with the way this team is right now, I would rather have a Jamar Chase guy, a physical receiver, a Julio Jones type, that can work with the contested catches because you're not going to have time to take advantage of somebody's speed.
Speed matters horizontally, too, though.
Like I used to love playing flag football against guys that thought they were faster than me. Because that's all they would try to do. I just drop back 20 yards and get a jump ball. I just wait for him to come to me.
Well, I'll give you Jameson's a little bit more physical than the pure guy because I mean he's a gunner. Also, that dude is he fights. So he got ejected for a game for making such a big hit in the punt team. So he's a fun one. It's too bad he tore his ACL. I don't know. We don't have to wish him on the Falcons or anything like that. But like football gods, please don't let him go to the Chiefs. Oh my God, please don't let him go to the Chiefs. Oh my God. Okay.
See, it's nice when you have the luxury to be able to wait for a guy like that. When you're already good enough, it's like, hey, we've got a 30th pick, a 29th pick. We can take a guy with silly upside and wait for him. That's why you hear me say all the time, how do the Ravens always get these guys? How do the Ravens get Owe? How do they get Odafe Owe? Because Odafe Owe was a project that wasn't quite ready to go. They're okay with that. And in 3 years, they're going to be like, Jesus Christ, how did this guy go to 27? He's a freak. Mark S. coming in with our first super sticker of the morning. Thank you so much, Mark. We certainly appreciate it. And Dave coming in saying, this is what bothers me about the 3-4 scheme, guys. It's not easy to find players that fit that scheme. Maybe. You basically need 3. You need a giant nose guard and 2 defensive tackles. Yeah. So if you're thinking that it's easier to find guys that are 250 pounds that can run, that you use as your edge guys, as your outside linebackers, that might be a little easier than finding a 4-3 defensive end that's 275 pounds that can run.
Yeah. I think the 3-4 versus 4-3 discussion's a tad archaic, just because the game has evolved so much where you're seeing most teams live in some sort of sub-package nickel personnel. And also I think that if we're really looking at scheme and body types and player fits, bigger questions are what's the main type of coverages that you're using on the back end, because that's going to directly influence what type of bodies you want, and also what's your gap technique of your defensive line. Now, some of that does play into the 3-4-4-3, but again, most teams are using a little bit of both, whether it be like a 4-3 overlook, which mimics a 3-4, or a 5-1-5 box, which it totally changes. So I'm more interested in what you want to do coverage wise and gap wise. And the Falcons I watched the Falcons this year, but not enough to be like, okay, I'm charting every single snap. Are they 2-gapping? Or are they gap and a halfing? Because I know a lot of
honestly, I don't watch it that closely.
Okay.
I watch, all right, is this guy getting penetration? Is this guy winning his snaps? I don't pay attention to the scheme as much as I do the players, to see if the players are winning their reps or not. That's basically what I'm watching.
Yep.
Not necessarily the scheme as much, because I'm interested. I'm just more interested in players and are they doing their jobs or not yet? So I'm looking at that type of thing more than the individual schemes. That's why I don't get into those conversations with you, because I don't know it. I don't know it well enough.
I love the scheme conversation, especially on defense. It's always they have to be the most adaptive to what's going on in the world and taking the data, because the offenses are trying to attack, got to take it away. So I think it's super interesting that those chess matches and how the players fit within the scheme. So, but yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for the
do you see the Falcons trading down to get Kyle Hamilton, is what EJ says. I feel like he'd be a trade up candidate if he's, and that may be what you meant. The Falcons can't afford to trade up to get anybody. They can't afford to give up picks. And it's 5 in the top 112. It's 4 of the top 74 picks.
Yeah.
The Falcons cannot afford to give up those picks for anybody else for the most part, because they basically need all 4 of those players to be starters next year.
I do have a question for you here in this regard. Let's say you have a obvious, clear delineation in your grade as far as Hutchinson and Thibodeau versus the rest of the edges, and Neal and Ekwonu versus the rest of the tackles. And one of them is sitting there at 5, and it's only going to cost you 8 and one of those second-round picks, or even a third-round pick, to move up that slightly. And you have a clear delineation in the grades.
If I can move up 3 spots with a 74, yeah. But usually moving up 3 spots costs you 3 second rounds or better.
I think that a lot of times it does, but this year does not have the quarterback tax, I think, up there. It's going to be a lot different payment.
I just think you're looking at worst.
Yeah.
You're number 43. And I don't know that I'd give up an 8 and a 43 when I know that a guy like Perion Winfrey could be lurking around. Devontae Wyatt, Travis Jones, he's interior defensive lineman. When I know I could get another starter at edge.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to need 2. I would rather move back from 8 to 12 and pick up another pick.
Yeah.
and do that. But if you think Kayvon Thibodeau is the guy, one, you're probably not going to be alone. He'd be tough. And I'll be interested to see. I've said it a bunch. This is probably the draft where you'd rather be drafting 6 to 10 than 1 to 5 financially, because there might not be this huge difference. So trading up into the top 5 doesn't make a ton of sense for me, when maybe Jermaine Johnson or George Karlaftis gets pissed off at all the people talking, calling him stubby, and he ends up being a star. Yeah. David Ajabo, the light clicks, and he ends up outplaying Aiden Hutchinson. There's too many questions in the first round for me to say I've got the answer and it's that guy. I need to go get him.
Yep.
Especially when we think that the best one of those guys is a safety who might drop to you anyway.
Yep.
He might drop to you anyway.
Just curious, especially with like a guy like Evan Neal. Like if Evan Neal falls to 5 and there's nobody like Evan Neal in this class, and you really want to shore that right tackle spot up or one of the tackle spots for the next decade, maybe you consider if the price is right. I'm just curious, given where you're at and whatnot. You do need more players, but I think if we learn anything from the Rams too, you need some stars. No doubt about it.
And
Mark S.
Mark S has a good question. He says, using McShay's first 7, who would you draft at 8? For me at 8, right now, this second, I would probably go Stingley. I would probably go Derek Stingley and put him on the other side with A.J. Terrell. A.J. Terrell's young. I think he just turned 22 or 23.
He's very young.
He's got 8 or 9 years, and he's really, really good. And if I can get someone almost as good or, right there with him as my corners, I've got the flexibility to have a lot of fun on defense. It makes the ability to, the Falcons, they couldn't get any sacks. When they brought pressure, they didn't get to the quarterback anyway, and then they couldn't cover. Nobody could cover other than A.J. Terrell. So it's like, I can't get any pressure, blitz or not, and I can't cover anybody. It was tough. It was really tough. So Arthur Smith and Dean Pease tried to slow the game down, grind it down, and make it a low possession, low scoring game. And maybe we can get Young Hoku a kick. And it worked a lot, 7 out of 9 times it worked, but I don't know how sustainable that is. So with the first 7, and Mark S, we'll recap real quick. You might know the teams, you might not, but the one was offensive tackle Evan Neal, 2 Aiden Hutchinson, 3 Kyle Hamilton, safety, 4 Ika Makwanu, offensive tackle, 5 Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end, 6 Sauce Gardner, corner, 7 Charles Cross, offensive tackle. So if I'm on the board and I can't move, and I don't know enough about Jermaine Johnson or David Ajabo right now, based on I want to see their measurables. I do before I'm going edge.
Trevin Walker maybe too. I
want to see them. Yeah, I want to see these edge guys so I can pick out. Hey, if someone comes out there with an Odafe Owe type of day, that's my pick.
Yep.
6'5", 260 pounds, 4 threes he was insane. That's my pick. But right now I'm probably going Derek Stingley. Good question though. Chris Hernandez coming in with a super sticker. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks, Chris. And Ethan also coming in with a super sticker from across the pond. So, gentlemen, appreciate you very much. And then Roy comes in. He has a good question, too. Says, if you were to trade down, how far would you trade down and who you're targeting if you do? Roy, on the mock simulators that offer me trades, every once in a while, I'll get the Panthers, I'll get the Lions, I'll get the Jets to offer me their 2023 first-round pick. I'll trade out of the first round for that pick. Because if I have the Falcons first round pick and one of them I actually had the Lions, the Jets, and or I had either the Panthers or the Lions, but I had 3 of the teams that you project in the top 5. I had each of their first round picks. I kept trading down. I'm like, yeah, we're going to stink and I'm going to have 3 top 5 picks next year. I'm coming out of this with Will Anderson and a quarterback. And that you're going to punt on the season. And I don't know if Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, if they feel like they could do that. It's real easy to do when you're playing Madden. It's real easy to do. But in real life, when you've got ticket sales and talk radio and guys like us, I don't know that you can do that. Yep. But how far would I trade down? It depends on what I got for it. It does. If you want me to trade below like 15, it costs you an extra second round. Yeah. If you want me to trade out of the first, it's going to cost you another first. So I better get 2 first rounders out of it for me to come down. But who am I targeting if I do straight defensive and offensive lines? I'm building the trenches. And then, I try and get a wide receiver out of it too. But there's defensive linemen, both edge and interior, all over the place in this draft. You could come out of this with 4 defensive linemen that would be upgrades over what was there, upgrades over anybody but Grady Jarrett for the Falcons. You really could in the first 50 picks. So good question though.
Yeah, DBA asks which teams might be interested in coming up. Teams that are interested in quarterbacks that have some question marks there. I mean, honestly, from 11 to 13, you're talking about the Commanders, definitely Tyler Heineke, woof. But then you have some uncertainty with Vikings, with Kirk Cousins. The Browns have a lot of issues right now with the likes of Baker Mayfield. Who knows about that? Maybe the Eagles want to package one of those first round picks. They have 3 there to move up. You're talking about the New Orleans. They're in cap hell. One of the solutions to getting out of cap hell, young cost controlled quarterbacks. Maybe they look to move up. I know they need all the assets they can get. Well, having a young cost-controlled quarterback might even be more valuable than having some of those young rookie contracts. The Steelers are a team that obviously need a quarterback, and Tampa Bay also. You talk about moving way down there, but Tampa Bay's, I mean, Kyle Trask right now is their starter next year. Woof. Blah.
Did you see who they were linked to this morning?
I saw it was Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson. I don't want to see Deshaun Watson in Tampa Bay.
No, that would be rough. And can we get the Jays question here real quick? Nick, I heard you state the cover 3 is being used by the Rams.
You got to give me time.
Oh, sorry. It's
what am I looking for?
Jay at 729. It says question.
Okay, that's back up here.
Yep.
Here we go.
Not to get too in the nitty-gritty with the coverage stuff. Yeah, with the Rams, the thing is, scheme is great, but what really makes it tick is the players. And if the Broncos had Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Patrick Mahomes does kill the cover 3, but you're able to do different stuff with that cover 3 look because you have those pass rushers that are absolutely dominant and one single ISO level cornerback. So Broncos right now, maybe you have the ISO cornerback. Jalen Ramsey, I think, has maybe lost a slight step. So Patrick Surtain, I think, is probably pushing on him, but you're not even freaking close as far as the pass rush ability that the Rams had. So the biggest thing with that cover 3 is Patrick Mahomes did kill it, but Gus Bradley, because Gus Bradley's still stuck in 2013, thinks that, I have to have the very demarcated safeties, one that's obviously showing his hand before the snap, walking down to the line of scrimmage, and then Patrick Mahomes already knows where to go with the ball based on that look. It's obviously cover 3. I'm going to hit the crosser there. It's good luck. I'm going to hit the sail route. Like, we've done this 100 times because we kill cover 3. So I think that's the bigger thing there with that cover 3 scheme. It's more about the players than anything. And also by the end of the year, of course, Patrick Mahomes started being, he was one of the most explosive EPA per play versus 2 high safety looks. So they adjusted. And then you saw the Bengals go to a rush 3, cover 1, robber style, dropping one of the edge rushers to play robber.
The key was they were still getting pressure with 3 guys.
Yep.
That's what was insane. I mean, the key to all of this is if I can get pressure with my front, saying it doesn't matter is overblown. But if I can get pressure on the quarterback with my defensive line, whether it's a 3 or a 4, 3 even better for God's sakes. And we highlighted earlier on a different show, when the Falcons played the 49ers in the red zone, the 49ers ran a 2-man pressure and got it. And got it with their 2 defensive ends. And then they dropped their defensive tackles into coverage in a 9-man cloud at the 7-yard line. Where the hell is Matt Ryan supposed to go with the ball? So pressure with your front is the key to any good defense for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing with this, the Rams, the Chiefs versus Bengals game is they got into some exotic man type of looks. And we saw the Rams counter that because the Bengals started to try to do that in the Super Bowl. What the Rams do? They go tempo. They go hurry up because then the Bengals don't have time to get in these complicated exotic coverage looks. They're going
and they just started throwing a Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, but absolutely. But I mean,
they just like, listen, I'm going to find my best guy, and if you don't have time to double him, I'm going to throw it to him.
Yep, exactly. But that's one of the reasons you go to tempo. It's not just to tire out the defense. It's because you can't get into these complicated looks when you're having to, one word play call, because otherwise the other team is going to snap it. So that's a big thing there. We got Travis coming in, joining us. Travis and I go way back. We had a little bit of Devin Lloyd discourse earlier, Travis. Hopefully you caught that. It's a fun player. I feel like Scott, I don't know how much you are into meme culture, but have you ever seen the GIF that is a kombucha girl where she tries kombucha for the first time and she's like,
I don't know what kombucha is.
Okay, well, it's like it tastes like somebody.
Is it like a grass shake or something?
It's an alcoholic beverage, very low alcohol content, and I think it kind of tastes like somebody had like a fruit cocktail and like burped into water. Like it's like that barely has the flavor, but it's not very good.
It sounds more like a cream based, almost like a Bailey's Irish cream type of thing.
I wouldn't call it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I think a lot of people say it's really good for gut health, but that's not for me. Right. There's the eye roll. That's the pseudoscience coming in there. But
Travis says a lot of holes to fill. But what do the Falcons do with their first round pick? Best athlete available. The Falcons preach best player available. Which I always, I roll my eyes at that just a little bit because best player available is so subjective.
Yeah.
And even if you say, well, they took Kyle Pitts, the best player available. Well, Jamar Chase might have been the better player. Penny Sewell might have been the better player. Micah Parsons might have been the better player. the odds are somebody that goes behind that guy is going to end up being a better player. That's just statistics. So I roll my eyes at that a little one. However, on this one, go with who you think you've got graded the best. Yes, because that player in this draft should fit a need.
Yep.
At a premium position too. Edge, tackle, corner. I think that's where the draft should fall. And for me, it should be edge, corner, tackle.
Offensive
based
tackle.
on where they go with best player. But the best player, your best drafts are when you can take the best guy that also fits a need. The worst drafts are when you reach and miss.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's the worst drafts are when you miss, period. It doesn't matter. It's like, well, we had a need there. Well, the guy couldn't play. So you still have a need there. And now you wasted a pick.
Yeah. What does the best for the Falcons in the first round? They don't have a top 5 pick, and I think there's a pretty clear line that there's top 5 players and then everybody else. Best thing for the Falcons would be to trade back, get yourself some draft capital, and keep adding logs to the fire or coals to the fire if you want with the trench play. Yeah, I mean that's building good trench play is like sustaining a good fire, right? You want to get a log on there before it's starting to dwindle. You want to keep it blazing. So, Chris Walker coming in over on Facebook. Chris is always a big supporter for the Forging the Falcons. Saying, morning, guys. Is it just me or does Thibodeau seem like a better pick later in the first round than early in the first? I have a feeling about him, and I feel like he may be a bit overrated. Well, he is starting to slip a bit. I will say that his tape is a bit up and down. He doesn't always play with a high motor, which is concerning, but he's definitely got more. He's way looser than Aiden Hutchinson. I'd say he's way more versatile than Aiden Hutchinson. He's got better bend than Aiden Hutchinson, better twitch than Aiden Hutchinson. There does seem to be a little bit of people in the draft media punching down at him right now. But who knows? That could be coming from one team picking there at 5 saying, God, we love Kayvon Thibodeau. Let's get this out there in the media and pray to God somebody's an idiot enough to fall for it. But we won't know until we know, right? I'm not sitting there. I'm not his strength and conditioning coach. I'm not his positional coach. I don't know Kayvon Thibodeau. So we can only say what we've heard or what the media is saying. You might be right about that. But as far as the tape goes, he's a top 10, top 15 pick in any draft class. Just from an athletic standpoint. I can't speak to the person, but I think the other thing is like, he has interest outside of football. So does Myles Garrett. I mean, he loves dinosaurs. He's a weirdo, but he can play football.
So what, does he show up on time for practice? Does he put his work in? Is he a good player? That's all I care about. I hope he has interest outside of football.
Yeah.
That helps keep you sane, keep you focused a little bit. You know what you're playing for at that point. Yep. Kenneth Booker coming in, KB82. So good morning, fellas. What QB is the most overrated in this draft class? See, that's a hard question for me because I don't feel like any of them are rated very well.
Yeah.
I think right now people are falling in love with the tools of Malik Willis. And if you don't particularly like Malik Willis in the top 10, you're hoping someone does. It makes your pick more valuable. Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, those are the 3 I think have a chance to go top 10. I think Desmond Ridder is a bit underrated. If he in the PFN, he's ranked really low. He's like in the 70s. I pick up in the 3rd all the time for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Sit behind Matt Ryan for a year and maybe you've got a chance to play the next year. If not, you go quarterback again in 2023. Yeah. So I don't feel like any of them are really overrated. I think right now people are glossing over the game, the tape that Malik Willis had because of they're falling in love with his physical tools.
I have 2 guys that I would say are slightly overrated right now. One of them is Carson Strong for me. I think that the arm talent is overblown. It's not that special. And like, oh, look, he ran a bootleg. He's not looking very dynamic and athletic with the bootleg. Sure, he can manipulate the pocket, but it's not incredible. He's not twitchy at all. Also, you have the knee concerns with him. Played in an air raid system, a lot of check down, screen, horizontal pass game there. And I just see lesser tools Jared Goff. I'm not building around a lesser tools Jared Goff. I know that he went 1st overall, but that was almost a decade ago now. Game's changed. So I think Carson Strong, he's clearly number 6 for me. And I think you see some people have him all the way up to number 2. So I'd say he's somewhat overrated. The other one may be getting somewhat overrated, and he scares me. I like the moxie. I like a little of the flashes, and I think it's very twitchy. But I have a lot of questions about the footwork, the decision-making, the durability. Matt Corral, he's a shrimp, man. He is so small, and he plays like he is running around like Jalen Hurts. You're going to get killed in the NFL if you're running the way you are. I know he's playing SEC ball, and how translatable is his game, too? I mean, it's RPO, slant glance over and over and over again. If not, then it's quarterback draw. I'm sorry, that's not going to work in the NFL when you got guys who are way bigger, faster, and stronger than even what you see in the SEC. So Corral scares the bleep out of me. He's my number 2 quarterback right now, but after Willis, it's Corral, the Pickett, Howell, jumbled. I don't know.
Like I said, the question was overrated. So you don't rate the guys. So who does? And I look at McShay's, going back to, we started with McShay's draft. So he has on their quarterbacks, he has Kenny Pickett going 11 to the Washington Commies.
There you go.
He has, I think he has 3 or 4 of these guys here. Malik Willis at 17 to the Steelers. I think that's a pretty good chance with them trading up. Matt Corral to the Saints at 18. That's not all bad in that area. And then they started auto playing the video again. So apologies for the sound. And I think those are the only ones he has going in the. And then Sam Howell at 32 to the Lions.
I mean, that's about where Sam Howell should go. Mm-hmm. And we'll find out about Matt Corral. The other thing about Matt Corral is that a lot of people coming out of the Senior Bowl is like, Matt Corral's the big winner because he wasn't here and all these other guys underwhelmed. That to me is like,
how many was that? Was that 4 or 5? 5 quarterbacks in the first round?
About 5.
Willis? Was it Willis?
Yep.
Corral, Pickett, Howell.
I didn't hear him say. You didn't say Ritter, did you?
I didn't say Ritter.
You didn't say Strong.
I didn't say Strong.
So 4.
4. Okay.
Then that makes sense. And the thing is also like, oh, these quarterbacks are not as good as last year, but you still have 4 going in the first round. The draft overall is not as good as last year. So you're going to see guys lifted because every single draft class is not the same. Just because there was a Penny Sewell last year doesn't mean the first tackle taken this year is going to be Penny Sewell. It's just every year is different.
And Luke was talking about, watching Kayvon Thibodeau. Says, I think he's a freak of nature. Well, good. And my opinion is if Kayvon Thibodeau was in last class and was the guy that he could be, he'd be an Atlanta Falcon right now. He would have gone at 4. The Falcons would have gone edge instead of tight end. But there wasn't an edge. There wasn't a defensive lineman available at 4. And I guess they didn't get the trade back package they want. And Roy coming in, Roy Fletch on YouTube saying, who would have to drop for the Falcons to not trade out of that spot? We'll see, because
top 5.
Who has to drop out of that spot to not trade out? Who needs to show up there? Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner could be picks there. Again, Jermaine Johnson. It depends on, it depends on what you get. If I really like a couple of these guys, Jermaine Johnson, David Ajabo, George Karlaftis, and they're sitting there and I've got 3 of them and someone offers me a chance to go back to 12, all right, I'll pick up another pick and take one of those 3 guys. Yeah. But if I'm not sold on those guys, I don't think there's a great chance that they trade back. I really don't. I think they'll see a chance to get edge, corner, or tackle at 8. I'm sorry, at 8, and take that spot. I don't see this as a big trade down draft for them.
How this one played out, though, is like ultimate trade down scenario because the top 3 tackles are gone. Maybe you talk yourself into one of those tackles because I think there is, again, the top 2, cross, and then a drop. Trevor Penning doesn't belong up there. Those other guys don't belong up there. Bernard Raymond, no. Then I'm again testing. There's no position in football that correlates and translates as well as like who is the best athletic tester. All right, he's going to be a great NFL player, other than the edge rusher. Like that one is the most. Height, weight, speed matters so much at the edge rushing position. So if we might have some clear ideas as far as freaks and haves versus haves even more from the edge rusher after the combine.
I feel like Sauce, Stingley, Ajabo, Cross, maybe. I think one of those 4 guys should be available at 8.
Yeah. I wouldn't sleep on Trevon Walker, but given what we're hearing about his athleticism, he might
test. That's a good segue for John Pope coming in, saying, I had a quick question. What are your guys' thoughts on Jermaine Johnson or Trayvon Walker for our top pick at 8?
I think if either of those guys test well, it makes a lot of sense. I think they're a little bit different. Trayvon Walker is the even more versatile guy where he could be a 5 technique or he could be edge, but you could have his body weight go either way. The thing about Georgia is he's so weird because they dropped him a lot to simulate pressure from one of the linebacker spots, whether that be Quay Walker or Nakobe Dean coming downhill. And that says something to me. When you have a 6'4", 275 guy dropping into space and flipping his hips in coverage, also being that it's a really smart kind of defensive thing that we kind of see some teams do against Patrick Mahomes of the world, where that edge rusher is essentially being a a secondary blitzer. Like as soon as that quarterback says, I'm going to escape this way, no, you're not. I'm hunting. And then he comes around with where he's not occupied by a blocker. They did that a lot with Walker. So it's going to be different.
I think Aaron Freeman, Locked On Pod for the Falcons, was comping him to Rashawn Gary a little bit.
That's possible.
Which to me blows my mind. It really does. Not because he's wrong. It's because I saw Rashawn Gary show up to a junior camp as a sophomore at 6'5", 285 pounds as a sophomore in high school.
Yep.
Like, how in the hell is a 6'5", 285-pound kid? And what I said at the time was, the way that kid moved, that's a number one. That's a future number one overall for us for recruiting rankings. And I think he was probably pretty close.
Yep.
Then when he came out, I said, listen, if this isn't an All-American first-round draft pick, I don't really know what I'm looking for. And he was, and it was a little slow, but he had that type of athleticism. But he was 285 pounds as a sophomore in high school. How the hell is he an outside linebacker in the NFL? He's not playing at 320 or 330. That's what's crazy to me. But Trayvon Walker was a comp that I've seen with Rashawn Gary on that one.
And like Trayvon Walker was so good at that edge spot for Georgia that it caused Jermaine Johnson to transfer from Florida State, and he popped at Florida State because Jermaine Johnson was a teammate of Trayvon Walker, a little bit different player. Jermaine is a little bit more of a classic 4-3 edge. I think he's actually a little bit better from the stand-up versus the 3-point stance because he can assess the field better, and that's really important for the RPOs and the pre-snap movement kind of stuff that you see so much of. But I mean, either of these guys, the testing is going to be big, but if you're betting on traits, height, weight, speed, athleticism, jumping, etc., Trayvon Walker's the dude. So watch for him.
John,
and
here's Jermaine Johnson right now. I love this guy. He's 6'5", 260, strong with his hands, quick off the line, and he can play 4-3 end. He can play 3-4 edge. Some scouting. Let's get into some reps here. I like the way he uses his hands. I mean, he never even touched him on that one because he uses his hands so well. So I'm a big fan of his. Again, I want to see where these edge guys where they stack up at the combine and make sure that he doesn't go out there and run a 4.9. Doesn't mean I wouldn't take him, but I wouldn't take him in the top 10.
Do you have the drill with the hoop drill?
I don't remember if I've got. I don't know if he was in this one or not. I think that one was from the other team.
Okay, I know you had Boye Mafe
from the other
showing
team with the hoop drill. They didn't do that one on this one, which I know we both really like. So, good question.
Yep.
Good question. As we're running out of time here, I want to make sure we do not miss Ethan. And I know he's talking about a player near and dear to your heart, Nick. Sky Moore from Western Michigan.
Yep. Yeah, Sky Moore, Western Michigan in later rounds, third for Atlanta. I think he's definitely a guy who's in the third round. He's so weird to watch because he wears 24 out there for Western Michigan, so it looks like he's a running back out there, and I think his shoulders are broader than his hips, so he definitely has more of that boxy frame. I don't know if that's just 24 playing tricks on me, looking like a running back, but he's fast, but he doesn't always show it on fast. He's fast on tape because he uses his speed in control, if that makes sense. He's not a press A to go fast, press B to stop, 2-button kind of player like we kind of see with Noah Fant. He is controlled. He can throttle his speed. Sometimes he is a little bit of a body catcher. You'll need to work on that, but he just comes down with the football. He's really fun. And, if he catches it with his teeth, I don't care if he's catching. It's not a problem until he does. That's the thing with him. So I really like Sky Moore. He's somebody that I think, not to come around again, but I think Mel Kiper just hyped him up in the latest one of his latest draft shows, so he's interesting as well. I like him a lot. I think he can do some inside-outside stuff. I think he's a very good fit as a Z at the next level, a Z receiver, and somebody's going to good player for him. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1, but he could be a very good 2 or 3. And I think he's also a decent run blocker as well. And if you want to run out of 11 personnel, that's a must-have.
PFN's mock draft tool. He's always available late. They've got him ranked at like 34 overall. And he's always available late. He's an easy get later on.
Yep.
It's like, man, I wish I could take my favorite one of these. My favorite one of these literally might have been the time I walked away with the Jets and the Panthers number picks in 2023. I'm like, I traded out of the first round, but you know what? I got some decent players, and I'm getting 2 of the top 5 guys next year.
Yeah, it's a solid wide receiver class. You mentioned Christian Watson earlier. I really like Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama as well. If you think you want to play the value game and wait a season, John Mechie's going to go around later than he did because of the ACL injury, but he's going to be a really good wide receiver. I think people are really sleeping on David Bell. We have a comment here from Wandale Robinson from Carson Miller, who's a really, really talented slot player. He's a little bit small, but like you get that dude in space and play like the basketball isolation game, he's going to cook the defensive back. He just is. So really a fun wide receiver class, some good depth. No, not the top elite guys, but pretty good. And we got James Hyatt saying Pickett may not have the best name for a quarterback. And then we got Carson saying Pickett's the number one quarterback in this class, and it's not close. Well, Carson, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. He also talks about never had double digits interceptions for his career. And actually, I have here, one second.
No, I think you just the other ones that I liked, James, were Ryan Suckup, the kicker, and who was the Blewett. There was a punter named Blewett this year.
Yep.
You know, Bob Walk, pitcher. He pitched for the Braves, and then you know, there was a Homer somebody. I forgot, it was a pitcher for the Reds, I think. Homer Bailey, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, bad names. One of my all-time favorite names. He played safety for the Browns back in the 80s. His name was Thane Gash. Thane Gash. Now that's a football name right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, the thing for me I wanted to get to with Pickett taking care of the football is it's not just interceptions that are a concern when you have the quarterback position. You can look at Daniel Jones, for example. Dude fumbles it like crazy. I did not get concrete data here. There's some data that doesn't correlate. Some places have it listed differently, but how many fumbles do you think Pro Football Focus has Pickett responsible for in his 5 years playing in college football?
7.
This isn't fumbles lost. This is putting the ball on the turf.
Oh, I don't know. 17.
38.
Wow.
38 fumbles, according to Pro Football Focus, from Pickett in his career. And that's not a quarterback who is running a lot of quarterback power options type of things. It's not like he's taking the hits. He's losing those in the pocket. So again, that's 5 seasons, and the interceptions or the fumbles dropped precipitously year after year. He had 11 in 2018, 10 in 2019, 9 in 2020, and then 6 in 2021. But still, that is a bleeping ton of fumbles, and a fumble might be even worse than an interception because you're not even giving your guy a chance to make a play on the ball.
And Chris coming in saying, interesting name in this year's draft is Smoke Monday. It reminds me of Puff Thomas, a defensive lineman from UNC, North Carolina. Couldn't stay on the field because he couldn't pass the team rules, which is, quote, for drug tests. So I don't know. Makes me nervous with the guy named Smoke. after Isaiah Puff Thomas, the big defensive lineman from UNC back in the day. But I think we're going to get out of here. We're coming up right on an hour. I want to say thank you to our super chat folks who came in. Ethan, DWI guys twice, Chris Hernandez, Mark S, all coming in. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but it may have just been a couple guys coming in more than once. So thank you so much for contributing to the show. Nick, what's on tap for the rest of the day?
I'm just laughing right now at my favorite name in the draft of the last few years is Kobe Buffalo Meat from Illinois State, Native American. But that's Kobe Buffalo Meat. What a great name. I think he played basketball for them as well.
There was a basketball player back in the 80s too, in Final Four, guy named God Shamgod. Like, well, man, you got to feel good about yourself, about your child, naming him God Shamgod. Do a Google on that. That's way back in the day. Those core memories that stick in there from 30 years ago. Can't remember who I worked with last year, but I can remember God Shamgod from 35 years ago. Yeah,
and there's a LSU recruit he changed his name to the coldest to ever do it, Crawford. So who knows, man? Names are make-believe anyway. You can call me the King of England. I don't care. But the rest of the day, I got a lot of work. You know me. You heard me complaining about the work going on, so gonna have to do that. I'll probably have to go in this weekend too. I got a 3-day weekend, but I'll go in and log some hours, and I'll use those when the weather is better.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, hit us up on the YouTube chat after the fact. I go in and read all those comments, and I respond to the ones that look like a question instead of just a "what the hell is wrong with Scott's eye" type of comments. So hit us up after the fact. And if you're watching this after the fact, hit that subscribe button. That's a big help. We've picked up 500 subscribers since February 1st. So we're up plus 500 this month already, which has been really good. So appreciate you being here and appreciate all the support. We will be back on this channel next Wednesday. Tonight, the Huddle Up Pod is back on Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then Nick and I will be back on Broncos for Breakfast tomorrow morning at 9:30 Eastern a.m., 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So we'll hope to see you soon. Appreciate you being here. And until next time, have a good day.